Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another up-to-date 8.3 Warlock PvP guide. Now in today's video I'm going to be going over Destruction. In my opinion, I feel that is the strongest Warlock specialization at the moment in the game. So if you're a Warlock and want to pick up a really good specialization for PvP, then Destruction Warlock is definitely for you. I will be going over stuff like Corruption, Azerite Traits, Essences and so much more, so stay tuned for that. This guide is tailored towards new players who want to learn about Destro, and also experienced players who might want to gain a little bit more information on how to be effective in PvP right now. So obviously it's really good for new players and experienced players, but I'm going to jump straight into it today. Really do hope you enjoy it, and let's jump straight into the video. So guys, kicking things off, I'm going to be talking to you about my talents. So talents are very important when it comes to Destro. There's two builds that I want to specifically mention in today's video. One is a Chaos Bolt build, the other is a Conflagrate build. There's two where you want to be switching from both of them depending on what team you're against in an arena standpoint. So obviously stay tuned for that. I'm going to hop straight into it, talking to you guys about my level 15 talents. So you have a choice of Flashover, Eradication, and Soulfire. So in my opinion, 9 times out of 10, maybe even 10 times out of 10, you want to be going Flashover. Flashover, if you don't know what this does, it basically increases the damage of your Conflagrate by 25% and also again allows you to gain an additional charge of Backdraft. If you don't know what Backdraft is, basically allows your Conflagrate to reduce the cast time of your next Incinerate or Chaos Bolt by 30%, and the maximum you can have is 4 charges. So if you're trying to burst a target down, for example, you can use your Conflagrate, then your Chaos Bolt. It's going to reduce your Chaos Bolt time by 30%, and you can just do so much more damage to that target because it allows you to get your Chaos Bolts off a lot faster. So it's really nice, especially if you stack haste. It's going to allow your cast time of your Chaos Bolt to be shorter. It's on 2.1 second cooldown. You know, it's just going to lower that down to like a 1 second or sometimes less if you have all your procs up. Very good. So that's why I like Flashover, sorry. And also, that's actually a good segue. Talking about Flashpoint, if you don't know what PvP talent that is, basically Flashpoint allows your Immolate. If your Immolate's on a target and they have 80% or more health, you're going to gain 815 haste. If you have a full 80 piece of Azerite armor, it's going to be less if you don't. But it basically gives you a load more haste, and if you have Flashover too, you can Flagrate that target. It's going to reduce the cast time of your Incinerate or your Chaos Bolt, and if you have a load of haste as well from your Flashpoint, you're going to be able to get your Chaos Bolts off so fast, it's going to be ridiculous. So talking about level 30 talents guys, you have a choice of Reverse Entropy, Internal Combustion and Shadowburn. Always go Reverse Entropy. Basically just gives you 15% increase in haste. That's all it does, and haste is one of your main stat, and it's so nice, especially when talking about Flashpoint, you know, because when I mention Flashpoint, it gives you a load of haste, and just to have a 15% increase in your haste just works so nicely because, you know, as a Warlock you want to be prioritizing your damage into your Chaos Bolts. That's your main dealing damage ability, and if you can get a load of Chaos Bolts out in a short window, that's going to put so much pressure on the enemy, and they're going to be forced to use so many defensive cooldowns and play so passively that you're just controlling the game the whole time you're in the arena. So it just works out so nice. There's some people who play Internal Combustion. I don't personally like it, same with Shadowburn, but I just think the 15% haste is just so much to lose out on if you don't play it, so that's why I play it. 45 talents, you have Demon Skin, Burning Rush, Dark Pact. I'm going to say this once and once only. I always say this. Demon Skin is your go-to. The other two is just absolutely useless right now in my opinion. Dark Pact, there could be a situation maybe in 2v2 Arena where you play it. But in my opinion, I think that's long gone. Demon Skin's just the best way to go right now, so that's why I play it. Just allows you to get so much passive healing and just do, you know, just be so defensive. It's so nice. Level 60 talent, you have Inferno, Fire and Brimstone, and Cataclysm. Now, I always play Cataclysm because if you think about it, if you go against somebody who has a load of pets, let's just say you're in a 2v2 arena against a Unholy DK. they pop their Apocalypse and they have that talent where they can summon 2 ghouls instead of 1. They're going to have like 10 ghouls out when they burst, right? If you can get Cataclysm off onto his ghouls, you know, and you play Flashpoint like I explained earlier, increasing your haste if it's on a target above 80% health, that is your Immolate, then you're going to gain so much haste at one given time, and it just allows you to, you know, get your Fear out quicker, get your Chaos Bolt out quicker, just control the game a lot faster and set the pace, and just negate his damage. You can literally cast a Fear within a matter of seconds, you know, control the game, you know, make sure his burst runs out, and then that's where you start putting the pressure in, and it's just so good. That's why I like Cataclysm, because it just allows you to get your Immolate a lot faster out onto the targets. If you play 3s and they're all stacked up, say you're spiting the enemy or something, you can also Cataclysm in, put your Immolation out on all 3 targets, and it just allows you to gain a load of haste if you play Flashpoint. Even if you don't play Flashpoint, this is still good over the other 2 talents, because it just allows you to do a lot of fire damage and also allows you to put Immolate on every target. So that's why I like it. Also, 75 talents, you have Dark Fury, Mortal Coil and Demonic Circle. Now I say this time and time again, I'm going to say it again, but I always say play Mortal Coil if you want the healing, play Demonic Circle if you want the mobility. However, as a Destruction Warlock, you have a spell called Havoc. If you don't know what Havoc does, basically what you can do, put Havoc on one target, and then if you're attacking a different target, it's going to duplicate the spells to the Havoc target. So for example, say I put a Havoc target on the healer and I'm attacking the DPS. I use my Immolate, my Incinerate and Conflagrate. What it's going to do is duplicate those spells and actually also put that on the healer, so I'm going to be attacking 2 targets at once. If you're playing Focus Chaos PvP talent, it's not going to do that with your Chaos Bolt, unfortunately, but I'll get to that later. So the reason why I like Mortal Coil is, instead of, you know, if you're Affliction or Demonology, you know, Mortal Coil is only going to strike 1 target and give you 20% healing, and it just allows you to stun 1 target for 3 seconds. When I say stun, I mean incapacitate them. Sorry, I can't speak today for some reason. But yeah, as a Destruction Warlock, you can actually do this to 2 targets now. What it's going to allow you to do is gain even more healing and set the pace of the game. So you become in charge of the game and you can actually set the pace. What I like to do is, you know, generate some fears, just start fearing the targets. You know, once they're on DR, you can double Havoc. So you Havoc, double Mortal Coil, allows you to CC 2 targets. Then that's where you can pop your Infernal, you can pop your Dark Soul, and then you Chaos Bolt, and you can just literally 100-0 them within a matter of 3 seconds, and that's how long they're stunned for. So it works out so nicely and puts the team on the defensive. So that's why I like Mortal Coil, and just acts as a great survivability tool when you're trying to survive an arena. Demonic Circle, however, is really good if you're in big maps, such as, you know, the Mechagon map, or if you're in maps such as the Zoldazar map, where you want to be trying to line the enemy as much as possible. So if you're against like a Fire Mage who can just, you know, G-Pie you, or you're against melee cleaves, sometimes you might want to go Demonic Circle, so you can put it in a cheeky spot and just try and run away from the enemy burst and just reset the game. However, 9 times out of 10, you probably want to be going Mortal Coil just for the extra healing, because most games go into dampening now anyway, because everybody sacks Versa. So Mortal Coil just allows you to get that much more healing when you're in, you know, high dampening. So it works out better. But there is situations where you do want to be going Demonic Circle, so obviously don't count that out. Level 90 talents, this is where the build starts to change, like I mentioned earlier. So you have Roaring Blaze, Supremacy, and Sacrifice. So I always go Supremacy. However, I also play Roaring Blaze, but we'll get to that in a minute. So Supremacy, what it basically allows you to do, it says it increases the damage of your Chaos Bolt by 8%. However, it's nerfed in PvP to 4% as I'm aware. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will put on screen the correct number, what it's nerfed to. But it basically allows your Chaos Bolt to do a lot more damage in PvP, which is great. You know, Chaos Bolt's your main damage dealing ability, just allows you to 100-0 somebody so quick when you burst that it's just so nice to have Supremacy. And if you play Focus Chaos Bolt, what it basically allows you to do is Chaos Bolt does 65% more damage, but no longer strikes a target who has Havoc on it. So, Chaos Bolt won't duplicate twice, it only do it once, but it still does a load more damage single target wise. So that's why I like playing Supremacy. However, guys, so as I mentioned earlier, if you are against a team where they put a load of pressure on you and keep interrupting your Chaos Bolts, and you as a player feel like you can't get that many Chaos Bolts off in one arena match, then Roaring Blaze is your choice. Roaring Blaze allows you to burn the target for 9k fire damage over a 6-second window if you use your Conflagrate. So you Conflagrate an enemy. So if you don't know what Conflagrate is, it basically puts an explosion on the target dealing fire damage. Also, if you play Flashover like I said, gives you 25% increased damage from your Conflagrate, so that's even more damage. Gives you a charge of Backdraft, therefore allowing you to get your Incinerate or your Chaos Bolt off a lot faster, and it just allows you to burn the target and deal additional damage. So that's why I like playing Roaring Blaze, and if you pair this up with the Cremation PvP talent, basically allows your Conflagrate to deal an additional 3% of the target's maximum health in fire damage as long as you have your Immolate on that target. So it just works out so nice. If you have your Immolate on a target and you use Conflagrate, you're literally going to be doing 25% increased damage along with a 9k burn, along with a 3% increase in damage. So that actually goes up to a 25, 26, 28% increase in Conflagrate damage. Quick maths, and you just do so much Conflagrate damage. So if you want a passive build where you can do a lot of damage with your Conflagrate, Roaring Blaze is definitely for you. It's only good where you go against like Unholy DKs and Warriors. Warriors can reflect your Chaos Bolt, so you might not want to go big Chaos Bolt build there. Same if you go against, for example, I don't know, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, just stuff that can shut you down all the time, maybe Monks, but I think you'll be fine against Monks to be completely honest. So maybe Rogues, if they have like Shadow Step and that, they can easily get to you and shut you down. They have a load of CC to work with, and you probably won't want to go Chaos Bolt there, so Roaring Blaze is your play. However, if you want to go big damage, go Supremacy, focus Chaos Bolt, you go big crashing Chaos build and your Chaos Bolts are going to hit for a ton. That's why I like going it. Also, if you go Conflagrate build, you can play Bursting Flare, which increases your mastery. Every time your target's affected by Immolate and you do your Conflagrate on that target, it's going to increase your mastery by X amount depending on your Azerite gear. So mine says 66, stacking up to 5 times, but obviously if you have lower Azerite gear, it's going to be less. So that's why I like it. It's just passive damage that works out in your favour. So it's up to you here. Level 100 talents, I always go Dark Soul Instability just because it gives you that extra window to do Burst. On a 2-minute cooldown, you get 30% increased crit, and you can just do you can just cast so many Chaos Bolts off with your Flashover and your Haste, your Reverse Entropy. And if you play Haste Corruptions 2, you're going to be having 1 to 0.8 to 1 second Chaos Bolt times, and 30% increase in crit too on top of that. Yeah, the enemy might want to start running, so I have a feeling everybody should be playing Dark Soul Instability. And, Demon Fire used to be good, but these two are not good anymore. Dark Soul is a 100% must, so always play this when you burst. So guys, now talking to you about my PvP talents. This is where some people might get muddled up, so I try and keep it as simple as possible. I'm a gnome, so I'm not a human. I don't have that racial which allows you to get out of stuns and everything like that. So I don't have that racial, which sucks, which is called Every Man for Himself. I do in fact have Escape Artist, which allows me to get out of immobilization effects or slows, for example, or like Ice Novas. So that's, I like playing gnomes because of their looks. I just like gnomes in general, but having that racial just helps out a lot. However, what I was basically segueing into is talking about my medallion here. Everybody's probably thinking, when do you want to be switching these out? Because I see some people using Relentless, some people using Medallion, and I get confused. So basically, if I was a human, 9 times out of 10 I'll play Relentless, just because it allows me to Because at the moment, right, humans, they have every man for himself, which basically acts as a trinket. They can get out of stun and everything, but it's on like a 3-minute cooldown. And Relentless basically allows the duration of CC effects on you be reduced by 20%. So it's really nice. As an orc, you might want to be going Relentless too. However, the reason why I play Medallion is because I'm a gnome, so I don't have that every man for himself. And I just like the idea of being able to get out of a important ability where I can control it myself. So if I get kidney shotted and they're going on my healer, for example, immediately trinket that, peel for the healer, wait for him to get full health and then start the game again. You know, if I get kidney shot in a smoke bomb by a rogue, I might want to trinket this immediately, use demonic circle away or something, just so I can get topped off by my healer. There's so many situations where Medallion works out in your favour. That's why I like playing it. And obviously, because I'm a gnome, I don't really want to play Relentless too much, but there might be games where you want to switch Relentless and Adaptation out for the Medallion, or vice versa. So, works out nicely. So, 9 times out of 10, you will be playing Focus Chaos. I spoke about this earlier. If you play the Roaring Blaze build, you don't want to be playing Focus Chaos because you just get no value out of it. So, I always play Focus Chaos if I'm going Supremacy build, so my Chaos Bolt can do so much more damage. Increases my Chaos Bolt's damage by 65%, but no longer striking a Havoc target. So if you want really nice burst damage, this is definitely for you. Demon Armor, however, I get a load of comments basically asking me, Xrathis, why do you play Demon Armor? Because it's not that good anymore since the nerf. I still like it in my opinion, but I do understand why people wouldn't like it. So at the moment I have 567k health. Pop Demon Armor, I have 596k health. In some situations, you want to be playing this against like melee cleaves, so Windwalker Monk and Unholy DK, or Arms Warrior, Unholy DK, stuff like that. Demon Armor can work out in your favour, just so you get the increase in health and the armour, so it's really, really nice, just allowing you to survive in deep dampening games a lot more. But if you're against like Double Caster, Warlock, Fire Mage, or like Warlock, Elemental Shaman, you can probably get away with not playing Demon Armor because you don't need the armor at all. So you might want to swap that out for like Entrenched in Flame or Foulfisher or something, which I'll talk about in a minute. If you're against casters, like I was mentioning, Nether Ward is always your go-to, purely for the fact that if a Fire Mage is casting Greater Pyroblast on you, for example, you can pop Nether Ward and actually reflect it back at that target. So it just allows you to survive for a little bit longer and control the game, reflect spells that are on you, and you can reflect it back at the enemy. So it just works out very, very nicely. For example, Warlock pops Dark Soul, Infernal, he's doing a big care spot on you. You can just click Nether Ward and reflect it. So it works out so well. Now, I have a lot of queries when it comes to talking about, you know, Foulfisher, because I've heard some people say Foulfisher isn't good anymore, because basically it reduces healing by 25% on the target and reduces their movement speed by 50% as long as they're in the Foulfisher ring, which is on the floor every time you care spot the target, which is good. So on a small map like Ruins of Lordaeron, Foulfisher will probably be your go-to, but just so you can get that healing reduction and slow the enemy down. And because it's a small map, 9 times out of 10 they won't be getting out of your Foulfisher as much, so it just actually works out so nice. But because everybody stacks versatility nowadays, it's not that useful to go with the 25% healing reduction because they just survive so much longer and you're waiting till deep dampening anyway. Sure, it's going to be more beneficial in deep dampening, but I know that some people just don't like using it and they would rather go like Focus Chaos, Nether Ward and Entrenched in Flame, for example, which is absolutely fine. It's completely up to you, but there's some games I like actually going Foulfisher if it's on a small map. If it's like Tolvaron Arena, you know, the big map, then Foulfisher is obviously not the play because you can barely get them to stay in your Chaos Bolt range and your Foulfisher radius, so it's not that good there. Cremation, talked about that earlier, only if you go Roaring Blaze build. So, for example, you go Roaring Blaze build, swap out Focus Chaos for Cremation, easy peasy. If you go Supremacy, don't play Cremation, play Focus Chaos. And then an honourable mention would be Weakness if you're against melee teams, because it allows you to reduce the attack power of the enemy by 30%. But because you're Destrolock, you don't need it as much anymore because you have such a high absorption from your Soul Leech that you basically take not that much damage. So personally, you don't need to play it, but there might be some games where you want to survive a little bit longer. And then Injection Flame basically allows your Conflagrate to root the enemy for 3 seconds, and damage does not break that. So if you want to get away from people, like say a warrior charges you, you can Conflagrate them and just separate the distance a little bit more, just so you can get away from the enemy. Or, I don't know, like a DK comes to you, you can do the same to him, or a monk. It's nice, but don't forget they can freedom, they can Tiger's Lust out of it, and everything like that. So it's not the best, but in my opinion, especially on big maps, it actually helps you out a ton, because it just allows you to increase the gap from you and the enemy, and there's a window where you can actually get care spots off a lot quicker, because they can't interrupt you if they're melee, so they just have to slowly walk towards you to try and interrupt you, and it just works out a lot. So if I sum it up again, Focus Chaos, very, very nice if you play Supremacy. Demon Armor, really good for melee targets, but you don't need to play this every game. Nether Wards, good against casters, mainly, but there is situations where, for example, you could play it into Windwalker Monk and reflect his karma dots when he attacks you, then you can just reflect it back on him. Same with a load more spells, so I won't talk too much about it. Falkfisher, good in small maps. Cremation, only good if you play Roaring Blaze. Injection Flame is very, very good. You want to be playing that like a lot of the time. And then Weakness is good if you want the extra survivability from melees. So it all depends what you want to go there, but realistically, these are the 3 you usually use, or you swap out Demon Armor for Injection Flame. So, or Falkfisher. So it all depends on what you want to run there. And yeah, that's it really for PvP talents. Alright guys, I'm going to talk to you now about my Azerite Traits, so we're going to mention that. Now Azerite Traits, like I mentioned with the PvP talents, this is where things start to get a little bit complicated, because there's so many different builds you want to be playing, and at the end of the day, I definitely can see why people get a little bit muddled up. So if I quit my good gear at the moment, here we go, I'm going to look very bad now. Ugh, I'm corrupted right now. So there's different builds that you want to be going, right? You can either go the Flashpoint build, the Crashing Chaos build, or you can go the Heart of Darkness build. There's so much to actually talk about, so let me just pull up my list here. I have a list, you guys won't be able to see it, but I put it on my other monitor just so it makes it a lot easier when talking about these Azerite traits. So the most ideal build that I personally like to run, if you look on the 3v3 ladder or just the ladders in general, you're going to notice that all Warlocks play something different, because it's stylized to their play style and it's how they like to work. So in a 3v3 standpoint, I like going ×3 Flashpoint for the increase in haste. So it gives you 850 haste if your immolate's above a target above 80% health. So if you can just dot up everybody, it's going to give you so much haste. Watch this, you ready? Immolate this target. So it's just, you know, give me a chance. I have 2 flashpoints and it increases my haste by 1,630 at the moment. So that is just so much, which is absolutely crazy. If you have 3 of these, just imagine that. That's going to be even more haste for you to get your care spots out with. So that's why I like going flashpoint. And then you want at least 1 Crashing Chaos for the increase in your care spot damage, and to reduce the cooldown of your Infernal by 15 seconds. So that's actually really good. You want to be using that, at least 1 of them. And then, in my opinion, 1 Bursting Flare is good. So every time you conflagrate a target with your Immolate on him, it's going to give you Mastery, which stacks up to 5 times. So just allows you to always have passive mastery throughout the whole game, therefore increasing the chaos bolt damage and just the damage when you burst in general. So it's really good, and it's actually good when you play the Roaring Blaze build. Also, you want at least 1 Chaotic Inferno, sorry. Chaotic Inferno, if you don't know what it is, Chaos Bolt deals 2k additional damage and have a chance to make your next Incinerate instant. Now, I said you have to have it. It's not the case, but it's ideal because it just allows you to get your Incinerate out really quick, because it's kind of like Paladins, Ret Palas, when they use their Divine Storm. You know, you have the Empyrean Power, which allows your Divine Storm to be instant. It's kind of like that, but instead it works with your Incinerate. So for the people who play paladins, you would kind of get the idea. But my ideal build, so if you say Xrathis, right, this is quite complicated right now. What do you recommend? As a personal person who plays WoW a lot and Warlock, you know, it's been my main since BC. What do you recommend? Basically, I would recommend ×3 flashpoints, 1 or 2 crushing chaoses, and then 1 bursting flare. That's what I'd recommend. So ×3 flashpoint, 2 crashing chaos, 1 bursting flare. If you can't get that, then maybe ×2 flashpoint, the rest crashing chaos, so 3 crashing chaos and maybe 1 bursting flare, just so you can do a lot more damage with your chaos bolt. That'll probably be like the ideal 2v2 situation, so you can do more damage with your chaos bolt. It all depends what you want to go. Would you rather go haste build? If that's a yes, go flashpoint, ×3 of those. Do you want more chaos bolt damage? Yes, ×3 chaos bolt. But I have seen a load of people, which actually is good. They've been stacking mastery corruption amps. So I'll talk about that later. But there's a trait called Insight the Pack, which allows you to gain a load of mastery. And obviously, if you have mastery amps, that's going to be giving you a lot of mastery. So it works out just so much nicer. And then you can go Heart of Darkness to increase your secondary stats too. I know some people go like, you know, 1 flashpoint, 1 crashing chaos, 1 bursting flare. The rest Heart of Darkness with like 1 Insight the Pack for the mastery build. But if I just sum up, I personally, as a Destruction Warlock, like to go ×3 flashpoint, ×2 crashing chaos and 1 bursting flare. But that's just me. It all depends on what you guys like. That's my 3v3 arena build. And you can obviously, you know, swap stuff out if you want to go something different. So that's up to you what you want to go there. But that's my main traits when talking about that. Now, guys, moving on to my essences. So essences are actually very important as a Destruction Warlock, because if you don't have the right essences, you can actually lose out on quite a bit of damage. So the main essences, so if I talk about the major essences, there's 2 which you usually switch between. So, well, no, 3 actually. So Lucid Dreams, what this allows you to do is gain a ton of soul shard regeneration over a period of time. And it allows you to get your chaos bolts out so quickly. So if you want the maximum amount of chaos bolt damage out and you think you can get loads of chaos bolts off, then Lucid Dreams is so good for single target burst. However, Vision of Perfection is actually really good. As mentioned earlier, if you play Crashing Chaos, right, every time you use your Infernal, it's going to increase your 8 chaos bolts by 3.7k damage depending on your Azerite gear, and reduce your Infernal by 15 seconds. So, logically, if you play Vision of Perfection, it has a chance to proc your Infernal, therefore increasing your Chaos Bolt damage, and also reducing the time of your baseline Infernal by 15 seconds. And that's obviously just for 1 of Crashing Chaos. So if you have 3 Crashing Chaoses, that's going to reduce it by 45 seconds, as I'm aware. I'm pretty sure it does stack, and increases your Chaos Bolt damage by 9k instead of 3k per one. It might actually be 11 because I think it was 3.9 or whatever. So it works out nicely. Usually, in a realistic scenario, I play Vision of Perfection just because if you have a load of haste, it's going to allow you to proc everything a lot faster. I am literally at 52% baseline haste, so if I play Vision of Perfection and I play Flashpoint, you can imagine how many procs I'm going to get with my Infernal out and the amount of Chaos Bolts I'm going to be actually to put on the target. So realistically, you want to be going either Lucid Dreams if you feel like you can just free cast the whole game and nobody's on you. If that's not the case, I always play Vision of Perfection just so you can get a load of Chaos Bolt damage out and you have more Infernal procs, therefore reducing your burst time because your Infernal will be up a lot quicker, and increasing your Chaos Bolt damage basically throughout the whole game, which is so nice. Now, if you think you can die really quick, then I'd use Conflict and Strife Major. It also gives you Demon Armor baseline, so obviously I was talking about that earlier. People say that it might not be good, but if you use Demon Armor, it increases your HP by a lot. So if you want the extra verse, Conflict and Strife is good, but it has been nerfed obviously in PvP now, so it doesn't give that much verse back anymore, but it's still decent to use nonetheless. So if I just sum it up, major essences, you have Lucid Dreams, you have Vision of Perfection, and you also have Conflict and Strife. You can go Breath of the Dying, but I just don't think Breath of the Dying is good for a Destro lock, because I feel like you get so much more value out of playing Vision of Perfection or Lucid Dreams at the moment that you just don't want to be going Breath of the Dying. Now, if you're not playing those as the major, or if you are and you're not, playing, for example, Vision of Perfection, or you're not playing Conflict and Strife, then the minor talents, minor essences, you always want to be going Conflict and Strife for the extra versatility. However, you can swap this out for Lucid Dreams if you're not playing that major, just because it might work out a little bit better, because obviously it heals you and it gives you soul shard regeneration and increases your versa. So it's really good, whereas Conflict and Strife obviously increases your versa, and I don't know, I just feel like it might be better to use Lucid Dreams if you don't use that as the major. You can obviously use both of them if you want to survive a lot longer. Breath of the Dying, everybody plays that as the minor now, because obviously you get 10 corruption resistance and it does a lot of damage and heals you, so it works hand in hand. If you're not playing Vision of Perfection Major, you always want to be playing that as the minor, because it reduces your cooldown rate of your Infernal by 25%. So I think it's actually a 3-minute cooldown, but it goes to a 2.1 minute cooldown. Or is it a 2.5? I can't remember. Can I swap this out and check? I have to be in a rest area. Hold up. I have a tome here. We'll use a tome just for the sake of this video. So I'm actually going to swap that out. Actually, no, hold up. Yeah, so it's a 2.8 minute cooldown actually. So it actually works out very, very nicely. Sorry, I'm just sorting these out again. Sorry about that. There we go. I swapped that Vision of Perfection. So it's really nice. And then obviously if you don't play Lucid Dreams, you want that as the minor. So that's the main ones you always want to be going. You can play Flame in a 2v2 arena standpoint, but I don't really see where you want to be going that nowadays. Literally, these are the main ones you want to be using, but if you don't want to play Breath of the Dying, then maybe swap it out for Flame or the Iris, because obviously Iris gives you more haste. So to sum up, major ones, you want to be going Vision of Perfection, Lucid Dreams, and Conflict and Strife. Then the minor ones, Conflict and Strife if you're not playing that major, Breath of the Dying, Lucid Dreams if you're not playing that major. Sometimes you can get away with not having it though. Then Vision of Perfection if you're not playing that major. Then also maybe if you want to go more healing, then play Crucible of Flame. So that's just my opinion. You can also go Iris as well for the haste. Sometimes there'll be situations where you might want to swap that out for, swap Breath of the Dying out for Iris, or vice versa. So all depends what you guys want to be going there. And let me just put this back in 1 second. Alright, so I'm going to basically talk to you guys now about my gems, enchants, and just my stat priority as a Warlock right now. So in my opinion, I decide to enchant everything with haste. I think haste is the main stat you want to be going as a Warlock, because it allows you to get your spells out a lot quicker, and in my opinion it's just more beneficial for us, because like I mentioned a lot of times in this video, it allows you to get your care spots out a lot faster and just allows your procs to come up a lot quicker, therefore allowing you to do more damage. So I've enchanted basically everything haste. Gem wise, everything haste again, apart from 120 intellect, which is obviously key. You always want a 120 intellect on one piece because you can't have it on more than one. So haste, obviously, just enchant haste if you're going the haste build. Mastery is obviously good, or versatility. If you want extra survivability, versatility is great too, but I'll mention that in corruptions later. But haste overall, in my opinion, is just the go-to build for a Destruction Warlock right now. And yeah, basically, if I sum up the stat priority, in my opinion, it goes haste, mastery, versatility, then crit. But I know that loads of people say mastery is your main stat because it allows you to do more damage. So if you go mastery build, then mastery, haste, versa, then crit. But as you know, my guide and my build that I like to be playing, I always prioritize haste, mastery, versatility, then critical strike. You want to be around like 10% versa though, just so you have some decrease in damage taken, and it gives you a little bit boost in your damage too. Alright guys, now talking to you about corruption. Corruption is actually very important. So at the moment I'm at 58. I have a haste amp, haste amp, haste amp, haste amp, versatility amp, and a haste proc. So I get a load of comments actually asking Xrathis, what are the best corruptions at the moment? I'm a destruction warlock or something, I have like 6 haste amps, but I also have versatility amps. Should I cleanse the versatility amps and put more haste on? What do you think's better? So in my opinion, it all depends on your playstyle. I like going full haste amps as a warlock, just so, I just think haste is so valuable because it allows you to get your care spots out so much quicker and just allows you to put pressure on the enemy so fast. So I usually put haste on everything, but it's actually really useful to have haste on all your gear apart from 2 slots. That's where you might want to put versatility, just so you can survive a little bit longer in PvP, because there might be a cutoff point with your haste. So say for example you have 70% baseline haste, you might not actually get that much value out of having 70% haste, because I remember people used to stack versatility, and if you're above 100% versatility, it's not going to decrease damage taken by 100%, so you're actually losing out of having that much versatility. So I would say if you get around 60% or 65% haste, and then you might want to just start going the rest of versatility for the extra survivability and damage done to the target, because I think that there's probably a cutoff point when it comes to how much benefit you actually get from having a load of haste. So I wouldn't risk it all on stacking haste, if you get me. But yet again, there might be no cutoff point, it might be really good, but in my opinion, I would try all haste on your gear, and if you feel like you're dying, then I would maybe uncorrupt 2 pieces and put a 12% verse amp on it, just so you have a little bit more survivability in PvP. Now I've seen loads of people stacking full versa or full mastery, and although that's really good, I just think haste is greater than mastery right now and versatility, because having the ability to reduce your care spot time from 2 seconds or 2.1 seconds to a 0.5 to 0.8 second cast time is so great in PvP. Literally, it does so much damage, and I will show you with the rotation at the end of this video how much my care spots can actually do, and it is ridiculous. So that's why I personally like going haste, because if you can get all your procs off at once, you're literally going to be getting 250% haste, and your care spots are going to come flying to the enemy, and it works out so nice. So if I sum up, basically all 12% haste amps is your go-to, because having these haste procs here with the 1275 is just way too much corruption. It's 35 corruption just for one, whereas if you use the 12%, it's only 20 corruption. So you can literally use nearly 2 12% haste amps for the cost of 1 haste proc. So it's just worth going 12% on every single piece of gear. And if you feel like you're dying in PvP, then if I was you, I'd swap out maybe 1 or 2 haste amps with versatility and see where that puts you at. But overall though, the ideal build would just go haste on everything. Alright guys, I'm just going to quickly cover something. I did this in the Affliction Warlock PvP guide. I want to talk to you about races real quick. So basically, as you know, I'm a Warlock, so a Gnome Warlock obviously. So I play Gnome Warlock because I like the race look. Now, I think races are important, but because I'm not a super high rating and I don't play Arena that much, it's not really ideal for me to actually change my gnome into something that might give me more value, like a dwarf or like a human, for example, or an orc or an undead. Just, it's not that beneficial for me right now to do that. But if you're trying to push like rank 1, Glad, for example, then you might want to actually choose your ideal race to try and do better in PvP. So if you're Alliance, there's 3 races, in my opinion, that stand out for a Destruction Warlock, and that is Gnome Warlock for the Escape Artist racial, just because if you're in a Ice Nova or you're slowed or something, you can just get out of those immobilization effects every minute, and it just allows you to get distance on the enemy, which is great. I just love that about gnomes, and they're tiny, they look awesome, it's just really cool, and I just feel like they're a nice solid race to pick overall. You also have humans, like I mentioned earlier, because they have every man for themselves, which basically is a trinket, so they can play Relentless every game, and it's actually very vital, because it basically reduces the incoming CC from the enemy by 20%. So it works out so good because you're not in a CC for a long period of time. Therefore, every time you're out of CC, you have longer just to cast on the enemy and deal more damage. So it actually works out very nicely. Then also Dwarf, I like having their racial because it allows you to take less damage with your with your stone form. So it's actually really, really nice, and I think in general those three races for Alliance side are really, really good. Now for Horde side, it's basically the same, but with Orc, it's really nice because you have your racial, which allows you to get more spell power every time you burst, which is so nice, and I think it's a 2-minute cooldown, so you can use it every time you use Dark Soul and every time you use Infernal. Imagine that, man, you're increasing your spell power every time you burst, and then you also get a CC reduction, as I'm aware, in PvP, which is great too, so they're very good for Horde side. And then Undead's obviously good for their Will of Forsaken, I think it's called, getting out of like charms and fears and everything like that. And then Troll Warlocks are really, really nice too, because they gain a load of haste from their berserking racial, as I'm aware, and they can just, like, imagine that, you know, you get 250%, everything procs correctly, and you pop your berserking, your care spot's going to be like a 0.2 second cast or 0.3 second. So I kind of really wish I had access to tournament realms so I can check it out, but obviously I don't, so, you know, just experimentation at the end of the day on what you want to go. But if I sum up, 3 Alliance races: Human, Gnome, Dwarf, Horde side, Orc, Undead, and Troll. Alright guys, we're going to jump into the last thing, which is in fact rotation, so I shall see you there. Alright guys, so talking about my rotation, it's quite simple actually, and I can actually show you quite easily, which is great on how to, you know, be effective in PvP right now as a Destruction Warlock. So obviously, depending on what composition you're against, you might want your Foul Hunter out, just for the Devour Magic and for the Spell Lock. If you're against double melee teams, like, you know, 2 melees, you might want to play your Succubus just so you can charm them. Or if you're against a team, you might want to play your Imp for his, you know, special ability as well. So it actually works out very good. So there's situations where you want to be using different pets. So what I usually do, if there's more than one enemy stacked, you can use your Cataclysm of First Global, you know, just use that immediately. But if there's only one target, then just use your Immolate and then spread that onto the enemy too. So what you do is you Cataclysm in, you can use your Incinerate to start generating your Embers here. You see, your Embers will start generating up. This is where you can Flagrate, Dark Soul, Infernal, Chaos Bolt, Incinerate, Conflagrate, Chaos Bolt, and then you spam your Incinerates until you get up. Conflagrate, Chaos Bolt, start doing your Incinerates, Conflagrate, Chaos Bolt, Incinerate, Conflagrate, Chaos Bolt. It's literally so easy, and you see I'm hitting, what was my highest Chaos Bolt there? 266k was my highest, and I didn't even get a second proc off. So it's actually really, really easy when it comes to rotation. It might be a little bit overwhelming, so what I like to do is Immolate in, you can Conflagrate, Incinerate, this is where you get proc here, look, Incinerate until you get full Embers, Conflagrate, Chaos Bolt, sorry, Conflagrate, Chaos Bolt, spam Incinerates, Conflagrate, Chaos Bolt, Conflagrate. So basically all you want to do is use your Incinerate to generate enough Embers so you can use Chaos Bolt, and every time before you Chaos Bolt, do Conflagrate just so you get the haste to increase the cast time of your next Chaos Bolt. So it actually works out a lot. So I'm going to show you one last time. So immolate, spam your incinerates until you get around 4.5. Then that's when you use conflagrate, pop your dark soul and your infernal. You use chaos bolt, spam your incinerates until you get about the same, so 4.5, depending on when you want to actually use your chaos bolts. Then use your conflagrate, chaos bolt, rinse and repeat. All it comes down to. So it's quite simple. I'm going to do it really fast now. As you can see here, I'm not getting enough procs off, but there we go. Chaos bolt, incinerate, conflagrate, chaos bolt, conflagrate, chaos bolt. Sometimes you might want to put rain of fire down to increase your damage of your next chaos bolt, which is good. So sometimes you would dump your shards into rain of fire, but it all depends on obviously who you're facing. Well guys, I really do hope you enjoyed today's video. This was kind of like an educational PvP guide on destruction warlocks at the moment. I'm going to be bringing you a demonology warlock one very soon as well. And sorry that it came out, you know, to almost like 50 minutes. I do apologise for that. But let me know if you agreed with my comments down below. Like, chaos bolt damage is just so ridiculous right now, and with haste you can just get so many chaos bolts off and it works so good in PvP. Guys, if you agreed with my thoughts, let me know in the comments down below. If you did like it, then obviously make sure to leave a like, comment down below, and also subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. I've been Xrathis. I will see you in the next one. So, peace!